Hey guys, yeah, I'm a chef and an entrepreneur, and everybody's always way smarter than me at these talks, so I feel kind of bad. But I'm going to try and talk about innovation, and the talk is Innovate or Die, so cool. I started my career as a chef. I worked on this very boat. It was owned by a guy called Paul Allen, who founded Microsoft with Bill Gates. And that opened my eyes to innovation, because he innovated in software, and it gets you a fuckload of money. He's worth 33 billion. But it was the first time that I ever got my hands on a tablet. He was so rich, we had tablets before iPads, or before the iPad was released. They were just huge. The smartphone market at the moment, a couple of people have touched on it. Paul touched on it, a couple of speakers. This changed absolutely everything. So a lot of people say that it's social media. My first company was social media. This device in, I think it was late 2007, absolutely changed everything in terms of marketing, technology, and multiple businesses. If you look at the amount of people who are downloading apps at the moment, it's absolutely mind-boggling. So you think that this piece of hardware spawns so many different industries, which I'm going to come on to. And it's so massively disruptive. If you look along the bottom, if you've got time to read them, huge companies. And apart from, say, Facebook, none of those companies were around 6-7 years ago. Twitter IPO today, 7 years old. All those companies, huge multi-billion-dollar companies, didn't exist. Instagram, 700 days. From the day the guys wrote the first line of code until it was sold for $1 billion to Facebook. So that's monumental, 700 days. That's absolutely nothing. And if you see it, Paul touched on it, and it said we're at the very start. This is like, these lines are getting steeper and steeper by the day. So if you look at WhatsApp at the moment, or Snapchat, or anything like that, they're growing faster than Facebook and Twitter were able to grow, because Facebook and Twitter are like the plumbing of the internet, and they really let you grow an awful lot faster. Big companies are getting caught out. So this is where you come back to innovating or dying. Microsoft are slowly getting killed. They still have a lot of revenue, but they're getting killed. This was a slide also earlier on. Everybody thinks that it's all these big, huge companies like Apple and Facebook. We're all now hailing taxis with the push of a button. Like 2 years ago, nobody here had heard of that. Nobody. Now it's just second nature, and that's because of the mobile phone in your pocket. Same thing's happening with Airbnb. And I use those two examples to just show how human behavior is massively being changed by these, what are effectively computers that are in your pocket. If you look at the like of HMV, you'll pick up the papers and they say that they're getting killed by high rents and bullshit like that. They're not. They're getting killed by Spotify and free streaming music, and the fact that people can have endless music on their smartphone walking down the street. How can you compete with that? Netflix is absolutely, Blockbuster I think yesterday closed down. So this is happening across every industry. Like, these are just the quickest examples that I could pluck. But unless you innovate, you're absolutely dead. So you need to do it really quickly. Kodak is often used, so you remember Kodak, the photos and all that sort of shit? They took decades to build that company, like decades and decades of building a brand. Instagram's not a copy of Kodak, but it's kind of, you can see the similarities. And I just wanted to then talk about Facebook. So Facebook's obviously growing really quickly, right? So they're an amazing company, billion users, all that sort of stuff. They even nearly got caught by mobile. So we all were accessing Facebook on our mobiles. But what started to happen was mobile users, see how quickly that one's grown? Like, this top one is going to be, that's computers and desktops and stuff. Like, this is where it's at, these two here. And mobile-only users is even more interesting. So these great companies like Facebook and Amazon, the yellow line is is normal books, crazy growth, year over year, Dublin. This is ebooks by Amazon. Great companies like Facebook and Amazon can innovate internally to ensure that they stay ahead. This is Nokia's headquarters. They sold that recently for about 500 million. That's how short they are on cash, because they didn't innovate. They had to sell their headquarters. So really great companies have to innovate. If you look at Blackberry, they didn't innovate at all, right? They just said, we've got the best phone. There's quotes out there saying the iPhone is going to be a little hobby project and stuff like that. This is the latest Blackberry. That's an iPhone, right? So that is how much BlackBerry is worth today, right? 4.2 billion. They're trying to hawk it around to different VCs and stuff, and they're trying to sell it. They probably won't even get 4 billion. And because they didn't innovate when they were supposed to and move with the times. That is how many iPhones that Apple sold in 2 days when they released the iPhone 5S. So those companies that don't innovate are really, really screwed. And it's not just big tech companies, it's absolutely everybody. And I'd just like to say, I don't know much about design, but I think it's I was just saying to Paul, I think it's the coolest time in the world for design, because Apple have kind of made design cool again, and the biggest, coolest companies in the world are now starting to be design-led, like Google and Airbnb and stuff like that. So that's cool. I think you'll all get paid more in the future. So, cheers.